What up, guys? Today we have a question from Fosnocht. I don't know if I'm saying that right. He says, yo, Nick. I don't know who Nick is. For you guys, if you guys don't know, that's my government name, right? But here I go by Chewy. By the way, anytime if you ever meet me in person, Chewy is what I go by in a jiu-jitsu setting. Even my wife, if she needs to get my attention, she will say Chewy in a jiu-jitsu setting because I just like my name, Nick, doesn't respond once I'm in a gym. Anyway, to the question. He says, isn't there a difference between knowing how to execute, but by the way, this is in reply to a video where I was talking about self-defense and striking. He says, isn't there a difference between knowing how to execute strikes versus defending and dealing with someone striking you? Isn't defending yourself from strikes also fundamental jiu-jitsu? Manage the distance, manage the damage. Lastly, do you think you need to learn and train how to strike in order to be successful in an MMA fight? So, brother, thank you for the question. And let's address the two questions that you asked about executing strikes versus, well, you actually asked three. Executing strikes versus defending them. Learning the strikes for the fundamental jiu-jitsu and how to defend them. And then also, do you need them in an MMA fight? So, first off, your first question, is executing and defending two different things? Yes, they are two different things. And one, in my bearded opinion, is inferior. I don't think that learning defense is enough. Right? For instance, like when I first came into jiu-jitsu, I was a wrestler who then was transitioning into jiu-jitsu and I wanted to learn how to fight MMA. I wanted nothing to do with being on my back. I wanted to be on top. I wanted to just learn how to pass guards, submit people on top. That's all I wanted to learn how to do. And because of that mindset, I got submitted left and right on top, even though I was trying to work on my defense. It wasn't until I, flopped my stupid butt over top on my back and started learning how to play the bottom game, learning how to do the submissions, learning how to do the sweeps, learning how to do all this stuff for my guard, that then once I was on top, I had a good idea as to what they were doing. I knew what my opponents were doing because I knew how to do it too. So I was defending those things. I've dealt with this several times with people that would come in for MMA fights over the years who would say, I don't want to learn jiu-jitsu, man. This stuff's stupid. Two guys wrestling around. I want to get out there and just bang, man. Just show me some defense. These guys were always terrible because, again, they didn't have the right idea. Because, again, it's like I can show you how to defend an armbar, but if you don't have any context for how this whole thing works, it's not going to make much sense to you. I can show you how to do a sprawl or how to scramble out of some takedowns, but unless you're used to wrestling and having those scrambles and having those whole thing, all that stuff happen, it's just not going to make as much sense. So just learn wrestling and learn some jiu-jitsu, and then you can add it in and mix it up however you want. It's mixed martial arts, right? It's not like striking with some defense. You might specialize in defense, but that doesn't mean that you need to just learn that. I mean, it's like with leg locks. I don't, like in competitions, I play with them all the time in the gym, but in competitions, I don't do a lot of leg locks. Just not my game, not my best stuff. But I train them all the time. I attack with them. I know how they work. And because I know how they work, I know when someone's trying to set me up in one, and I know how to defend them because I know how people stop me in them. So again, I have a good, clear understanding of them. And so I think when we talk about defense, I think defense is typically inadequate. I think it's best to actually learn it. And I think that most martial arts have a clear specialty in what they do. You should appreciate them for that. But if you want to learn something else that specializes in something else like striking, go learn some boxing, learn some Muay Thai, right? Jiu-Jitsu might teach you some basic stuff, right? Punch blocks, whatever. But if you're actually wanting to learn how to strike, you need to go learn it from somewhere else. And again, there is a couple things that'll happen when you actually learn how to execute strikes. One is you will learn how, because you're going to have to spar at some point, right, when you're executing. And it doesn't mean you need to have permanent brain damage, but getting popped in the face is a bit important, because if you get hit in the face, it's like the old saying Mike Tyson has, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face, right? So if you ever sparred before and you got hit in the face the first time, you probably remember, it's a shock to your system. Your nervous system starts to freak out. If you've never had that happen before, you have no idea how your body would react. Even if you think you're training self-defense, if someone actually hits you, you don't know what's going to happen. It's like the first time you get on the mats, right? It might seem like they're just rolling around, and then all of a sudden you're on the mats with them and you're wheezing out of breath in the first minute because you've never been in this situation before, and it's a shock to your nervous system. And when you get used to this and you're striking, you know how to deal with the punches as they're coming in. It allows you to relax a ton. You also learn how to read subtle cues that let you know that someone's actually getting ready to throw a strike. It's not going to be a shock to you when they do, right? You're going to, their hips turning now, and I can see their shoulder turning over when they're coming in. And it's also important because, again, yeah, if the guy's throwing from the hip like this, like a lot of self-defense stuff is always like, if the person comes over top like this with like some overhand punch, someone might do that. But what happens if they pop, if they've done even a couple boxing classes, they pop you right in the mouth with a straight cross? you need to learn how to defend that. And again, the best place to learn how to defend that is the striking arts. And again, I think it's important to do it. You don't have to go down the rabbit hole like I did and do it for a decade, but a little bit of time in the striking side would do you some good for your self-defense and learning how to execute strikes. To your other question about the MMA fight stuff. Oh, by the way, jiu-jitsu. Is striking part of jiu-jitsu? It depends. Some of the traditional jiu-jitsu fighting stuff, yeah, 100%. A lot of gyms don't practice much striking. Short answer. The last thing I would you should think about is, you said, is it necessary for an MMA fight? Yes, it's necessary for an MMA fight. If you're wanting to fight, you can think about, well, I'm just going to defend the strikes. Again, we talked about why that's a bad idea. Just learn how to fight. Learn how to fight from the feet. Learn how to strike and all that stuff. And again, if you're doing self-defense, I've talked about this before, when you look at most hand-to-hand self-defense situations, again, if we're talking about there's a group, we're talking about someone has a knife or a gun, all bets are off, right? There's no martial art that's going to be effective for you when you're being charged by a group. Your best bet is to run away, right? Again, and hopefully you guys would be smart enough to avoid fighting like the plague in a sort of contained situation, right? Like some guy's talking trash about you, so what? Some guy cuts you off in traffic, who gives a damn? Starting fights over silly stuff, right? Avoid that. That's why we train, so we can dump all that aggression out here. But assuming that you're in a hand-to-hand situation with a person, one-on-one, which is more common than it's not. I mean, we can watch the crazy examples on the internet and we'll see those, and it clouds our view of what life actually looks like. But because bad stuff does happen, but a lot of times for the most part it doesn't. When those things happen, when you see the fights happen, they're almost always very predictable, and they look like sloppy mixed martial arts fights. Guys are trying to tackle each other, they're swinging a bit, and it's very clear when someone has some training and someone doesn't. And when someone does have training, it usually is a very easy fight for the person. And so again, whether it's a self-defense situation or if it's an actual MMA fighting situation, I don't think that it's going to be wise to just learn how to do finish strikes. I think you should learn how to strike and learn how to use them properly so that you can get all that there is to learn from that too, and from that art, and learning how they defend strikes, because that's all they're focused on. It's like if I was going to learn how to defend arm bars, I'm going to do jiu-jitsu. I want to learn how to defend. They're the best at that. Learning how to strike, if I want to learn how to defend punches, I'm going to go to the place where literally they're throwing punches at each other all day long. How do you defend them? So anyway, that is the idea to chew on, brother. Hopefully that helps you, and I'll talk to you next time.